Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna and welcome to all devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind presence as we continue. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verses 9 to 18, answers by citing the Lord's version. Om Gyanatmivandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopiva Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Apta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Sadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vaireka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokai Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalidvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transfer of all Vedas, O you enriched with jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O library of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun, which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You actually Lord Krishna, who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshasharaya Te Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your soul was rain, pure love good upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bandhu Mad Sangim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Mad Nishtaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Stute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadayena tini chochatara kahana munchagada chinmam premna ritkatoyaspura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplift to the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma Thod. Accompany pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayaritaratascharthe Swabhignaswarat Tene Brahmaidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatvati Sarvam Mrisham Damna Swena Sada Nirastakuakam Satyam Param Dhimai. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I made it upon Lord Shri Krishna because he's the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him the material universe is temporarily manifested by reactions of three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existing in transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayana Upaisha Sabya Kala Vismin Yuge Jana Manda Sambanda Muta Manda Sumanda Mateo Manda Bhag Ulunar one. In this age of Kali, many but short lives, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all always disturbed. Narayana Namaskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. For reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God at Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai Pumso Paro Dharmo Yato Bhaktira Dokshaja Ahayutukiya Pratihata Yatma Suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation, dharma of all humanity is that is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yakyusa Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti Tattva Vidas Tattvam Yat Gnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sabhyate. Learned transcendentals who know the absolute truth calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shri Shushosha Dadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsavaya Vipra Punyartita Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryadantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavato Tamasloke Bhakti Bhaviti Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classroom of Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personal Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, is established an irrevocable fact. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Vyam Swadharmam Parinishtaya Janmalabha Para Pumsam Antenara Yanasmriti. The highest perfection of life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duties to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaridi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. A person who has broad intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires, without any material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We continue in Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, and welcome again to all the devotees on the line. Let's see if anyone has any feedback from last session that we had, verses 4 to 8. If you have any feedback, please type in the chat. Otherwise, we will proceed with Srila Prabhupada's post statement in the meantime. So in this section that we covered 4 to 8, we are hearing how Lord Brahma heard tapa and started performing austerities. And the key point was that he performed the practice of devotional service without any diplomacy, without any hypocrisy, truthful and honest. And Srila Prabhupada in text 8 says, one has to receive the transcendental sound from the right source, accept it as a reality, and prosecute the direction without hesitation. The secret of success is to receive the sound from the right source of a bona fide spiritual master. Mundane manufactured sound has no potency, and as such, seemingly transcendental sound received from an unauthorized person also has no potency. So this is also an interesting truth that if we compose a mantra, not coming in disciplic succession, not coming or given by the spiritual master, but it's seemingly transcendental, meaning it has names of the Lord. We can put things, nice mantra together, and plenty exists. But because it's pleasing to the ear, it fits, there's a nice tune to it, and therefore people become excited with that mantra. You are materially excited, but there is absolutely no spiritual benefit. Here Prabhupada is saying, mundane Manufactured sound has no potency, and as such, seemingly transcendental sound, received from an unauthorized person also has no potency. One should be qualified enough to discern such transcendental potency, and either by discriminating or by fortunate chance, if one is able to receive the transcendental sound from a bona fide spiritual master, his path of liberation is guaranteed. When we chant the Lord's names, our material body, material vocal cords can only vibrate material syllables. But due to the connection, due to the mercy of the Lord by his own sweet will descends through that, or descends from the spiritual world, transcendental sound, into our sound, and therefore appears, and we then become purified by that association. That's why a Mayavadi or materialistic person, when he chants the Hare Krishna mantra, it is basically mundane material sound. Sounds like the Hare Krishna mantra. He could be a musician, and some people may think, oh, it's so nice kirtan. Total mundane material sound. So only somebody who is advanced can detect. In the neophyte stage, we really cannot even discern whether we are experiencing or applying the process spiritually and getting benefited, or it is just like we are enjoying the tune, the sound, the association on a material platform. So therefore, Prabhupada has warned us not to concoct, create any mantras, or even add and subtract to the mantras. So then Prabhupada continues, one should, the disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of a bona fide spiritual master as Brahma executed the instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple, and this completely faithful execution of the order of a bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. So if we simply stick to Srila Prabhupada's instructions, spiritual master's instructions, success is guaranteed. Even though externally we may not necessarily have created external results. Apparently, we didn't, make thousands of devotees and build temples, etc. But if we have sincerely followed the orders of the spiritual master, success is guaranteed. So Lord Brahma, receiving the instructions, faithfully follow those instructions, and now we're going to hear the result. In our last session, the Lord was very pleased, and the Lord appeared. So if we are practicing, and again, the practice, we heard Lord Brahma practiced for 1,000 years of the demigods, 1,000 celestial years. It's not like he practiced for 5 days or 6 days and then said, okay, hold on, now where's the Lord? He's not coming. What's the problem? No. He continued practicing, continued the austerity, the practice of devotional service, day in, day out. And when the Lord was pleased, the Lord appeared. So in our lives also, we need to firstly make sure that we are practicing the process as defined and given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Because if we do not follow the process, then it doesn't matter, even if you take billions of lifetimes, the Lord's not going to appear. So we should follow, and then patience is required for us to wait for the Lord to be pleased by our endeavor. Without the Lord's pleasure, without the Lord sufficiently being pleased, there is no question of the Lord revealing himself. It's interesting, if you understand this principle of I'm a servant, just like if there's a maid servant serving a master, the master will say, please go clean the room. So the maid servant goes and cleans the room. Now, she cleans the room, she comes back to the master, and what she's going to do? She's simply going to wait for the next instruction from the master. She's not going to start thinking, oh yeah, I don't think the master likes me, or I don't think I cleaned the room properly, he's not speaking to me. No, she just waits patiently for the next order. And then the master gives the next order, she goes, she executes, come back. So like that, if we are servants of Krishna, we simply have to wait for Krishna's reciprocation. We don't demand and command, Krishna, it's time up. You wait, I'm waiting too long. No. Now, what's interesting is when we're chanting Hare Krishna, for example, patience is required, but chanting Hare Krishna itself is also service. So I'm rendering that service of glorifying the Lord through chanting the names of Krishna, but at the same time, embedded in that service is requesting for service. So therefore, I patiently chant the holy name, praying for service, waiting for that service. And when the Lord is pleased, then he will give us further service. So we are going to continue with the next section, 9 to 18. It's a little lengthy section in terms of the purports. So we may go a little over time. If we have to leave, please do. But otherwise, we will try to complete this section. We did make it very clear that this chapter is very, very important, because this chapter has Chatusloki Bhagavatam, 4 seed verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. So 9 to 18, Lord Brahma's darshan of Vaikuntha. The Lord is very pleased with him. And now we're going to hear what actually happens. So Lord Brahma's darshan of Vaikuntha. 9 to 10, the Lord showed Vaikuntha being pleased with Brahma's penance. And in these verses 9 and 10, we're going to hear about Vaikuntha is a supreme planet. It's the abode of all. It's adored by all self-realized persons. It's free from suffering, from confusion, from fear of offenses, influence of the modes, time, and Maya. And there the Lord is worshipped by the Devas, Asuras, Bhaktas. Everyone worships the Supreme Lord. So if we analyze, and as we go through the verses, we'll see we want to become free from all these aspects, because all these aspects causes us suffering. And that place that is free from these elements is Vaikuntha. Text 9. Tasmai swalokam bhagavan sabhajitam sandarshayam ashaparam nayat param vyapeta sanklesha vimoha swa Vimoha sadvasham swadrishtavadbir purushay abhishtutam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by self-realized persons free from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Note, it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead being thus very much pleased. When one performs devotional service, is Krishna pleased? Yes. When one chants Hare Krishna, is Krishna pleased? Yes. Even if you consider Jamil, who chanted unknowingly, Krishna is pleased. But is Krishna very much satisfied? Is Krishna very much pleased? Well, that requires more effort on the part of the candidate. And Lord Brahma sufficiently, very much pleased the Supreme Lord. He attracted Krishna's attention. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarma said, act in such a way that Krishna will see you instead of you trying to see Krishna. With our effort, we cannot see Krishna. It's impossible. But if we act in such a way that Krishna is attracted, then Krishna can appear. But that is going to require some serious Krishna consciousness. If we just, practice devotional service once in a week, once a while, like occasionally here and there, then it's going to take a long time to please the Lord. One really has to be serious about the process and seriously take to the process. Prabhupada in the purport says, the troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma was certainly in the line of devotional service bhakti. So it wasn't any other process that he was practicing. It was bhakti yoga. But here Prabhupada says the troubles of penance. So for us also, adopting the practice of devotional service does cause some trouble, some inconvenience. That inconvenience is related to, I have to give up certain things I like. I can't just do anything and everything I want. My activities and time is directed by Srila Prabhupada, Krishna. So there are things I have to give up that I may be attached to. Then, life and material body comes with its own difficulties and troubles. We may have certain illnesses. We may have some baggage from past karma. So yes, it's trouble. But the trouble of embracing the process of devotional service, even with all our shortcomings and difficulties, if we simply continue sincerely as best as we can, then that is not against the process of pure devotional service. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Swarlokam, the Lord's personal abode, would become visible to Brahmaji. The personal abode of Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mystical nor material, as conceived by the impersonalists. But realization of the transcendental abodes of the Lord is possible only through devotional service, and thus the devotees enter into such abodes. So, unfortunately, the Gyanis, the Yogis, the Karmis, they will not have darshan of the spiritual world. It is only by devotional service that one can have experience of the spiritual world. What to talk about entering there? The Gyanis, Karmis, and Yogis have absolutely no entrance. Just to see the abode, you need devotional service, the perfection of devotional service. What to talk about entering? There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance. But the trouble accepted in executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning. Whereas the trouble of penance in other processes of self-realization, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. Yet we find so many people attached to these processes. The attachment to the processes is an obstacle. And then the outcome from the processes distract your attention, and that becomes an obstacle. And then even the execution of these processes not fructifying in pure devotional service is an obstacle. Why would people be attached to obstacles? Under the influence of the material energy, unfortunately, people don't get it. And if they don't have acharyas like Srila Prabhupada that, in simple, clean English, because even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj had a very high language of English. Prabhupada is giving one time, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada went to Srila Prabhupada, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, his English, is so high. Reading his books is very difficult. Prabhupada said, yes, he had written for me, and I'm writing for you. So that what Prabhupada is writing in simple English, we can understand. And it's so simple. If we simply follow that, we will save ourselves from an ocean of trouble. Prabhupada continues, there is no profit in beating husks without grains. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penance for self-realization other than the penances in bhakti yoga. So we should be convinced about this statement and not try to add. Sometimes, okay, I think we need to modify the process a little. Let's add, some yoga exercises, some pranayama breathing exercises, some other form of processes, because right now it's not effective. Nope. Prabhupada is making very clear. No matter what path we take, it's going to take some trouble. We have to take the trouble of embracing the process. We should simply stick to the process of bhakti yoga that Srila Prabhupada is outlining, acharyas have outlined. And if we think there's a shortcoming, it's simply mental concoction. Yes, certain things from other processes may help, but if our faith in the holy name or the faith in the devotional service is less than our faith in these secondary processes or parts of these processes, then that slowly becomes an obstacle. Executing bhakti yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead, for Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahmaji was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. There is a personal relationship When we are practicing the process of bhakti yoga, we have to understand it's not a one-way exchange. We find in the material world, every form of meditation that exists is a one-way street. Like people are meditating on a candle, or they're meditating on light, or they're meditating on whatever else is there. It's only one-way meditation. It's you meditating on a candle. The candle has no clue you're meditating. So it can't even reciprocate. But when we're chanting the holy names of Krishna, when we're meditating on hearing the holy name of Krishna, it's not a one-way form of meditation. The holy name of Krishna, Krishna, Nam Prabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knows perfectly well what you are doing, how you're meditating, what is your intention, what's your objective, what's your aspiration, what's your distracted fact, how distracted are you? So the holy name clearly knows, and therefore the holy name reciprocates accordingly to the sincerity of the practitioner. So Lord Brahma was sincere. There was no duplicity. There was no hypocrisy. He was practicing. He pleased the Supreme Lord, and the Lord was pleased. Therefore, the Lord appeared. And the Lord reciprocated with Lord Brahma. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Krama Sandarbha annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites quotation from the Brihad Aranya Upanishad, Vedic evidence. It is said that Yajnavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka. This abode of the Lord, although described in revealed scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. So when people say it's all mythology, this thing doesn't exist, well, it's true. Why is it true? Well, it's true to their perspective. For them, it's perfectly true because they cannot see beyond this material paradigm or dimension. For one to see beyond that requires further qualification of bhakti yoga. Therefore, it's no use trying to convince them because they will not accept. Here in the word swa drishtava dibbi is very significant. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of his self. Impersonal realization of the self and the Supreme is not complete because it is just an opposite conception of material personalities. The personality of Godhead and the personalities of the devotees of the Lord are all transcendental. They do not have material bodies. So the complete form of liberation, the complete form of self-realization is to realize yourself and realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal form of realization, where one really does not realize his true identity. He can realize his spirit and is part of the Supreme Spirit. But that is not complete. Yes, you are spirit and the Supreme is spirit. But what is the nature, the qualities of that spirit? You are a servant of that Supreme Spirit. And that Supreme Spirit is the Supreme Master. And as a servant related to a master, your duty is to serve. That is true liberation. That is true self-realization. The material body is overcast with 5 kinds of miserable conditions, namely ignorance, material conception of attachment, hatred, and absorption. As long as one is overwhelmed by those 5 kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into Vaikuntha Lokas. Now, if I had to ask, who wants to go back to spiritual? Who wants to go back to Krishna Loka? Who wants to go back to Vaikuntha? Everyone is going to raise their hands. Okay, so we all want to go back to Godhead. Great. To desire to go back to Godhead, to want to go back to Godhead, it's not bad. It's a good aspiration, Prabhupada says, especially in the beginning. So let's say we have that aspiration. I want to go back to Godhead. Fantastic. Now, Srila Prabhupada is giving us an obstacle that will prevent us from getting there. And what are the obstacles? Prabhupada says, as long as one is overwhelmed by those 5 kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into Vaikuntha Lokas. Someone dies, a devotee dies, a practicing devotee dies. And then what's the common statement? Well, he's gone back to Godhead. Okay, now we cannot analyze in relation to that devotee, but it's easy to make statements like that. Let's see, if I am going to die now, will I go back to Godhead? Well, I just need to see whether I am free from these 5 kinds of miseries, miserable conditions. Now, these 5 kinds of miserable conditions, which are described, is mentioned clearly in Srila Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur's Madhura Kadambini, also quoted by Srila Haridas Thakur in Harinam Chintamani. So here we see, we covered this journey of divine love, 9 stages of devotional service, pure devotional service in Madhura Kadambini that causes there online in the academy, level 1. And here we see from Bhajana Kriya to Anartha Nivritti. First is Shraddha, faith, Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya, and Anartha Nivritti. Anartha Nivritti is the 4th stage. And in Anartha Nivritti, there are 4 categories of different anarthas that we need to become free from, unwanted elements in our life. And the first one is described as dushkrita, obstacles born of past sinful acts. And they're classified as 4. Avidya, ignorance; asmita, false ego or false identification; raga, attachment; dvesha, hatred; and abhinivesha, absorption in worldly objects. That means intense absorption either for attachment or for hatred. So if we are not free from these obstacles, and this is simply on the level of Anartha Nivritti, we haven't even passed Anartha Nivritti to Nishta. There is no question, 0 chance, 0 probability that this person is going back to God on this level. Yes, if Krishna wants, he can give Kripa Siddhi, and he said, I like you, let's go. It's okay. Let's go. Yes. Prabhupada says that's rare. So we need to understand practically and realistically where we are, and then we need to progress if we want to go to Vaikuntha. So let us briefly cover, if we still have any form of ignorance, especially ignorance of our identity, ignorance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ignorance of the process, ignorance of the goal. if we have, if we still identifying ourselves with this material body, thinking this is me, if we have material attachments, if we have material hatred, and then we absorbed in sense gratification related to these attachments and aversion, then we can understand we have more work to do to purify our heart. And all we need to do is continue bhajana kriya, practice devotional service, seriously, sincerely, without hypocrisy, in a good association, and this way become free from these anarthas. As we become free from these anarthas, and then we move further into nishta and into the other stages, then we can become qualified to enter Vaikuntha. So here we can see Prabhupada, this is another, there are, I think in previous chapters we read another statement also, similar to this. That yes, by chanting Hare Krishna, we can go back to Godhead. We can go back to God in one lifetime. But it doesn't mean that if I'm just in the process, I'm going back to Godhead. No. Am I in the process and sufficiently embracing the process to move ahead in different stages of the process, right up to bhava, prema? Then the likelihood of going back to Godhead is rest assured. Prabhupada continues. The impersonal conception of oneself is just the negation of material personality and is far from the positive experience of personal form. Therefore, Prabhupada would give the definition of mukti means to realize your identity, your true identity, not just negation of material form. The personal forms of the transcendental abode will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the highest planet of Vaikuntha Loka as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a coward boy, keeping transcendental Surabhi cows and surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhiya vipalayantam lakshmi sahasra sata sambram sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamoham bhajami. A statement of the Bhagavad Gita, yat gatva na nirvartante taddama paramam mama. Bhagavad Gita 15:6 is confirmed here with Paramam means transcendental, Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and his abode is also known as Vaikuntha. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and senses. 10. Pravartate yatra rajastamastayo sattvam cha mishra na chakala vikramam na yantramaya kimukta parehare anuvrata yatra sura surachirtam. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any of the influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time. So what to speak of the illusory energy, external energy, it cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. So this last section was trying to understand and was looking at the commentary given by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, just to understand that last part. So there may be some syntax that's not correct there. So he says, in Vaikuntha, there is no influence of Rajas and Tamas. This means that there is no creation and destruction. Because we know that in passion you create and in tamas you destroy. So if there's no, if these lower modes are not there, then there is no creation and destruction. There is also no material sattva. And we know that Lord Vishnu, he's in predominating deity of sattva for maintenance. So that means there is no question of maintenance. Why? Because you don't maintain Vaikuntha. It's eternal, which is mixed with these two. With the absence of material sattva, there is no maintenance of temporary Swargalok or other planets. However, there is Suddha Sattva, composed of eternity, knowledge, related to the Swarup Shakti of the Lord. In Narada Pancharatra, Jitanta Stotra, it is said, Vaikuntha is endowed with 6 transcendental qualities. It's devoid of the 3 material gunas and is not attainable by non-Vaishnavas. And then in Padma Puran, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is quoting here about the form of the spiritual world. Between the realm and the spiritual sky, the splendid river called Viraj flows with water produced from the perspiration of the Vedas. Beyond the river lies the place called Tripad. This supreme abode is eternally sweet, young, and eternally blissful. This abode of the Lord is Suddha Sattva, full of the pastimes and without decay. So if we want to enter into that abode, we need to come to Suddha Sattva. We need to come to Vasudev's platform, Suddha Sattva, mode of pure goodness. It is all in the Vedas without contamination and never subject to destruction. It is all Vedas. So it is all the Vedas without contamination and never subject to destruction. It is beyond measure, without old age, truth, and devoid of the stages of material consciousness, waking, sleeping, and deep sleep. There the sun, the moon, and fire do not shine. Why? Because everything is self-effulgent. Having gone to the supreme abode of the Lord, one does not return. This abode of the Lord is filled with many inhabitants. There is no influence of time, which causes 6 types of transformation. Because the place is under the influence of the Lord's quality, what else can be said? There, the gunas are cut out at the root. Maya, the material cause of creation and destruction of the material world. The Shakti of the Lord does not have any deluding influence in all Vaikunthas. This is the understanding, since it is already stated that the Rajas and Tamas cannot exist there. What to speak of the absence of these things? Kim Utapare, such as the expansions of Maya, like Mahatattva. This also means that the bodies in that place do not have a beginning produced of the material elements. After a description of Vaikuntha, the inhabitants are described. In that place, they are associates of the Lord and those who act in compliance to the Lord, Anuvrata. So if you do not comply with the Lord, it's like in a legal, there's governance. If you don't follow the government, you don't follow the laws, well, then you get punished. So if you are not Anuvrata, you do not follow the Lord's desires, then you are non-compliant. If you're non-compliant, not meant to be there. This means that everyone there acts for the pleasure of the Lord. In the material world, everyone acts against the pleasure of the Lord. It has already been stated in the 3rd verse that the Lord is beyond time and Maya. Now, it is stated that Vaikuntha and the devotees there are beyond time and Maya. The devotees there, since they are beyond time and Maya, should be worshipped by the devatas, the demons, and the devotees. So everyone worships those, the residents of Vaikuntha. They worship the Lord and they worship the devotees. And there is no influence of the modes. So Prabhupada in the purport says, the kingdom of Godhead, the atmosphere of the Vaikuntha nature, which is called the Tripada Vibhuti, is 3 times bigger than the material universes and is described here as also in the Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. This universe containing billions of stars and planets is one of the billions of such universes clustered together within the compass of the Mahatattva. And all these millions and billions of universes combined together constitute only 1/4 of the magnitude of the whole creation of the Lord. So we the minority, majority of the people are in the spiritual world, and it's unlimited. There is the spiritual sky also. Beyond the sky, there are the spiritual planets under the names of Vaikuntha. And all of them constitute 3/4 of the entire creation of the Lord. God's creation are always innumerable. Even the leaves of a tree cannot be counted by a man, nor can the hairs on his head. However, foolish men are puffed up with the idea of becoming God himself, though unable to create a hair on his own bodies. Man may discover so many wonderful vehicles of journey, but even if he reaches the moon by his much advertised spacecraft, he cannot remain there. And Prabhupada would, if they, let's say they go to Mars, Prabhupada would say, okay, now they've gone to Mars. Are they still free from birth, death, disease, and old age, free from material suffering? Because ultimately, it doesn't matter where you go. If you are not free from birth, death, disease, and old age, if you're not free from material bondage, then no place is the perfect place in the material world. Only that place which is free from these aspects, which is Vaikuntha. That is how Prabhupada was very confident. When he would speak, he would say, we have the solution to birth, death, disease, and old age. So someone comes, oh, you have the solution to birth, death, disease, and old age. What's the solution? Get out of the material world. That's the solution. People want to become free from birth, death, disease, and old age by being in the material world. No, you can't stay in the material world and be free from birth, death, disease, and old age. That doesn't exist. Just like Prabhupada also made the point, they're smoking cigarette, like Prabhupada said, they're smoking fire and they're feeling cool. You can't feel cool when you have fire. So you can't be free from dukkha when you are in dukkhalayam, the material abode of miseries. You need to be out of the material world into an environment or atmosphere of Vaikuntha. The sane man, therefore, without being puffed up, as if he were God of the universe, abides by the instructions of the Vedic literatures, the easiest way to acquire knowledge in transcendence. So, let us know through the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam of the nature and constitution of the transcendental world beyond the material sky. There is no other best form of authority than the Bhagavatam coming in disciplic succession. In that sky, the material qualities, especially the mode of ignorance and passion, are completely absent. The mode of ignorance influences the living entity to the habit of lust and hankering. And this means that in Vaikuntha Lokas, the living entities are free from these 2 things. So here are hints. We see how proud we see how Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary was there, right? Which I just read. Now we see how Srila Prabhupada, he's giving his commentary on this verse. And his commentary is very, very practical, to the point. Okay, you want to go back to Godhead, like we mentioned in the previous verse? Great. You want to go back to Godhead? Excellent. Wonderful. Here's the secret. We need to become free from lust and hankering. Why? It doesn't exist there. So very practically we can measure, is my lust reducing? Is my habits of lust reducing? Is my habits of hankering reducing? Because if it's reducing, I'm moving in the right direction. But if it's not reducing or it's increasing, well, it's clear sign I'm moving in the wrong direction. Just like if I'm going to Durban, I'll start with 650 kilometers to Durban, and I'm driving on the N3 highway. And then I see the next signboard, 600 kilometers, great. 550 kilometers, great. 500 kilometers, excellent. 400 kilometers, wonderful. 300 kilometers, excellent. 350 kilometers, whoops, what happened? 400 kilometers, something's not right. It should ring bells. I should not keep moving on that same road because something went wrong in my direction. So we can measure our spiritual progress. Am I becoming free from the 5 miserable conditions of material life that was mentioned in the previous verse? Am I becoming free from lust and hankering? And this means that in the Vaikuntha Lokas, the living entities are free from these 2 things. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, in the Brahma Bhuta stage of life, one becomes free from hankering and lamentation. This hankering and lamentation, connected to the mode of passion, ignorance, that influences a living entity also at the time of death. Because you are hankering for things, oh, I wish I had that, oh, I wanted that, or I couldn't do that, Well, no, I want that. It's more hankering. And then you're lamenting, oh, I didn't, do this, oh, I, should have done that. I wish I could have done that. So there's both hankering and lamenting. In the material world, these 2 aspects or qualities practically influence every facet of people's lives. For example, somebody, take a child. The child is hankering for a toy. So there's hankering. Now, when the child gets the toy, these 2 qualities will always be there. Hankering, I get the toy, it's fulfilled, and eventually in due course of time, the toy breaks, the toy gets lost, the toy is stolen, I lament. I want a relationship, hankering. I build a relationship, it gets fulfilled, time separates that relationship, I lament. So these 2 aspects of hankering, lamentation is practically what material life is all about. And when one comes or practices devotional service and comes to the Brahma Bhuta platform, there is no hankering and lamentation. Therefore, the conclusion is that inhabitants of Vaikuntha planets are all Brahma Bhuta living entities, as distinguished from the mundane creatures who are all compact in hankering and lamentation. They compact. They are practically drowning in hankering and lamentation. In the material world, when one is not in the modes of ignorance and passion, one is said to be situated in mode of goodness. So now we're going higher to the mode of goodness. But goodness in the material world also at times become contaminated by the touches of the modes of passion and ignorance. In Vaikuntha, however, it is unalloyed goodness. So yes, goodness is conducive. It's a springboard for spiritual practice. But even goodness needs to be given up, or we need to transcend, rather, goodness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, we read in the first canto, the pastime of Narad Muni. Narad Muni was attached to the mode of goodness. And Krishna did not appear a second time. Why? Because he was attached to the mode of goodness. He had to give up the mode of goodness also. So we need to come to the mode of goodness, but then we need to rise above. The whole situation there is one of freedom from illusory manifestation of the external energy. Although the illusory energy is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the illusory energy is differentiated from the Lord. The illusory energy is not, however, false, as claimed by the monist philosophers. The rope accepted as a snake may be an illusion to a particular person, but the rope is a fact and the snake is also a fact. The illusion of water on the hot desert may be illusion for an ignorant animal searching for water in the desert, but the desert and the water are actual facts. Therefore, the material creation of the Lord may be an illusion for the non-devotee, but for a devotee, even the material creation of the Lord is a fact and as the manifestation of his external energy. So the monists, they love these different examples of the air contained in a clay pot, or the rope that you mistaken as a snake. And obviously they use these analogies to motivate their improper philosophy. And our acharyas, like Srila Prabhupada, he also is counteracting. They say, oh, you're walking in the dark and you see a snake and you get frightened. There's a snake. Then you realize, oh, it's just a rope. Similarly, we also mistaken this world to be real. But actually, this world is illusion. This world is false. And your Prabhupada is giving an example. Yes, someone may mistaken, like you see in the dark, you mistake the rope for a snake and you get frightened. But hold on, pause, put a pause button. How did someone superimpose the idea of a snake onto a rope if the snake conception did not exist? And for the snake conception to exist means a snake has to exist. So meaning a snake is real, and now you have because you saw a real snake, that concept went into your consciousness, and now you superimpose that on the rope because a rope has to exist. So both rope need to exist and a snake need to exist. Similarly, material world, you are considering to be an illusion, but actually it's real. And the fact that you are accepting the material world to be real, the Mayavadis would say, well, that is the illusion. Acharya would say, well, the fact that you are taken to be real, even though it's temporary, means there has to be something real for you to even consider the material world to be real. So in this way, they obviously connect that, yes, why are you able to superimpose on the material world in these ways? Because there is reality that exists. And the spiritual world is that reality which you then try to superimpose on this material reality. But this material reality has its nature, and the spiritual world has its nature. And they are clearly distinct opposites. But this energy of the Lord is not all. The Lord has his internal energy also, which manifests another creation known as Vaikuntha Lokas, where there is no ignorance, no passion, no illusion, no past, no present or future. With a poor fund of knowledge, one may be unable to understand the existence of such things as the Vaikuntha atmosphere, but that does not nullify its existence. That spacecraft cannot reach these planets does not mean that there are no such planets, for they have described in the revealed scriptures. As quoted by Jiva Goswami, we can know from the Nara Pancharatra that the transcendental world of the Vaikuntha atmosphere is enriched with the transcendental qualities. These transcendental qualities, as revealed through the devotional service of the Lord, are distinct from the mundane qualities of ignorance, passion, and goodness. Such qualities are not attainable by a non-devotee class of men. In the Padma Puran Uttarakhand, it is stated that beyond the 1/4 part of God's creation is the 3/4 manifestation. The marginal line between the material manifestation and the spiritual manifestation is the Viraj river. And beyond Viraj, which is a transcendental current flowing from the perspiration of the body of the Lord, there is the 3/4 manifestation of God's creation. This part is eternal, everlasting, without deterioration, and unlimited. And it contains the highest perfectional stage of the living conditions. In the Sankhya Kaumudi, it is stated that unalloyed goodness or transcendence is just opposite to the material modes. All living entities in the transcendental abode eternally associate with the Lord without any break. And there the Lord is the chief and the prime entity. In the Agamas, the transcendental abode is described as follows. The Lord associates there are free to go everywhere within the creation of the Lord. There is no limit to the creation, particularly in the region of the 3/4 magnitude. Since the nature of that region is unlimited, there is no history of when the association of the Lord began, nor is there an end to it. The conclusion may be drawn that because the complete absence of the mundane qualities of ignorance and passion in Vaikuntha, there is no question of creation or annihilation. In the material world, everything is created and everything is annihilated. And the duration of life between creation and annihilation is temporary. In the transcendental realm, there is no creation and no destruction. And thus the duration of life is eternal unlimitedly. In other words, everything in the transcendental world is everlasting, full of knowledge and bliss without deterioration. Since there is no deterioration, there is no past, present, or future in the estimation of time. It is clearly stated in this verse that the influence of time is conspicuous by its absence. That does not mean time does not exist. Time is there, but its effect is not seen like in the material world, past, present, and future. Time is one of Krishna's energies. It's a personal attendant, it's a personal associate of Krishna. So they all exist in the spiritual world. But according to the environment, in this case, time's influence of past, present, and future, which we experience in the material world, does not exist in the spiritual world. The whole material existence is manifested by actions and reactions of the elements which make the influence of time prominent in the matter of past, present, and future. There are no such actions and reactions of cause and effect there. So the cycle of birth, growth, existence, transformation, deterioration, and annihilation, the 6 material changes, are not existent there. It is the unalloyed manifestation of the energy of the Lord without illusion as experienced here in the material world. The whole Vaikuntha existence proclaims that everyone there is a follower of the Lord. The Lord is the chief leader there without any competition for leadership. And the people in general are all followers of the Lord. It is confirmed in the Vedas, therefore, that the Lord is the chief leader and all other living entities are subordinate to him. For only the Lord satisfies all the needs of all other living entities. So if we do not develop the attitude of serving the Lord, even in the material world, forget about going back to Godhead. Because there everybody is serving Krishna. There is no question of serving me. There is no question of me being the center. So in this material world, we need to become free from that false consciousness that I am the chief, I am the center, I am the enjoyer, I'm meant to be served. No, we need to cultivate the attitude of serving the Supreme Lord, serving the devotees. So that attitude of service is key. 11. Shama Vadata Satapatra Lochanam Pishangavastra Surucha Supesh Sasham Sarve Chatur Bhava Unmishanmani Pravekan Nishkabara Nasuvarshacham. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha planets are described as having a glowing bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flowers. Their dress is of yellowish color, and their bodily features are very attractive. They are just the age of growing youths. They all have 4 hands. They are all nicely decorated with pearl necklaces, with ornaments, medallions, and they all appear to be effulgent. And they all have a unique personal identity, even though they all look like this. The inhabitants in Vaikuntha Lokas are all personalities with spiritual bodily features not to be found in the material world. We can find the descriptions in the revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. Impersonal descriptions of transcendence in the scriptures indicate that the bodily features in Vaikuntha Loka are never to be seen in any part of the universe. So when they say we do not have any form, we do not have any legs, arms. Sometimes they refer in the Upanishads, they refer that to the living entity. Sometimes they refer that to the Lord. What is the implication? What is the understanding? Probably is giving the understanding. Impersonal descriptions of transcendence in the scriptures indicate that the bodily features in Vaikuntha Loka are never to be seen in any part of the universe. So when they say the living entity has no form, the implication is, yes, he has no form like that in the material universe. He has its own spiritual form. He doesn't have any other form. So that's the proper understanding. We know even Lord Jagannath, he doesn't have hands and legs. One understanding is you can't see them. Second understanding, Prabhupada says, is yes, he doesn't have any material hands or material legs. He's got spiritual hands and spiritual legs. So the form of Lord Jagannath is indicating, telling us, I don't have material hands and I don't have material legs. As there are different bodily features in different places of a particular planet, or as there are different bodily features between bodies in different planets, similarly, the bodily features of the inhabitants in Vaikuntha Lokas are completely different from those in material universe. For example, the 4 hands are distinct from the 2 hands in this material world. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he makes few points which I'm going to share, and also Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu commentary shares something in relation to the embracing of liberation or mukti, which Prabhupada is going to speak about in this purport. So let's just read these 2 aspects. There are 2 kinds of mukti, Sukha Aishwarya Uttara and Prema Seva Uttara. In the first kind, the jiva thinks that he will personally be happy with the 4 muktis, and it really becomes so. His desire is for happiness as well as for the service of Narayan, but it is more so for his own happiness. It is for that reason he desires to live with Narayan, to have a form like his and to have opulence like his. This mukti may be experienced in Dhruvaloka, which is within this universe. So someone who is aspiring for Sukha Aishwarya Uttara, they want to serve Krishna, but they also have this inclination to enjoy that form of liberation. Whereas the second form is Prema Seva Uttara. And this is different. What is it? The second kind of mukti is experienced in Vaikuntha. So the first one, somebody has that, they're not completely pure. So then they can go to the spiritual world, like Dhruva Loka, which is also the spiritual within this material universe. But for you to go to the real spiritual abode, you need to become free from the tendency to enjoy. The second kind of mukti is experience of Vaikuntha. Jay and Vijay had the four muktis. They lived in the same planet of Narayan. They had the form like Narayan. They had the opulence like him. But the desire was not for their own happiness. They desired to serve Narayan in all respects. There was no consideration of their own happiness. So we see how Srila Prabhupada's presenting of Krishna consciousness is in line with this aspect, that to go back to the spiritual world, we simply need to develop the desire to please Hari, Guru, Vaishnav, Bhagavata Gita. It should not be about me and my pleasure, my enjoyment. Simply about pleasing the Lord and his devotees. And even though the four forms of liberation is there, but why are you accepting it? Is it for your pleasure, or is it really in service of the Lord? Then Jiva Goswami, commentary to relation to these kinds of liberations that's available, he says in 1.256, there are two varieties of four types of liberation. One predominated by the desire for happiness and power, and the other predominated by the desire for prem. The first variety is not accepted by those who are inclined to serve the Lord. Here the author explains that the word ati in ati virudyate of the previous verse, one variety has the predominant desire, uttara, for happiness and powers, which are natural to the spiritual world. The other variety has the predominant desire for service executed by one's natural prem. The devotee do not accept the first variety. This is understood in the previous verse quoted. Salokya, Shashti, Samipya. If the four types of liberation are not accompanied by service, they are rejected. Because ekatva, or oneness with the Lord, is always without service, the devotees always reject it. Oneness is understood to mean merging with the Lord, or Brahman, Sayuchya. But the devotees solely attached to the Lord, who relish the sweetness of prem, never accept the five types of liberation at all, even prema uttara. Those who are pure devotees do not even accept prema uttara mukti, mentioned in the previous verse. By the use of the word uttara, predominance, a little desire for sukha or aishwarya is indicated in that prem seva. However, the devotees do not desire that portion, and therefore they reject prema seva uttara mukti. The first stage of service takes the form of sadhana. By that, one attains the second stage of service. This is called Siddha Rupa, or perfected stage of service. For the pure devotees, those four types of liberation are achieved as secondary items by service. Prati tam mat sevaya, as stated in the verse such as the following. Devotees do not desire the happiness and powers attained through those four types of liberation at all. That is the meaning in verse 38. They are satisfied completely, having attained the highest bliss by serving the Lord directly. Purna Sevaya. Although actually service depends on being on the same planet. So those items are accepted as part of pure prem. If they do not desire those types of liberation, how much more they dislike temporary rewards of the material world. How could they desire such things? Text 12. Pravalavaidurya mrinala varchasam parish urat kundala maulima lina. Some of them are effulgent like coral and diamonds in the complexion and have garlands on their heads, blossoming like lotus flowers, and some wearing earrings. Prabhupada in the purport says, there are some inhabitants who have attained the liberation of Sarupya, or possessing bodily features like those of the personality of Godhead. The Vaidurya diamond is especially meant for the personality of Godhead, but one who achieves the liberation of bodily equality with the Lord is especially favored with such diamonds on his body. So if you go to Vaikuntha, they all look like Narayan. Naturally, the Lord has a special identity that distinguishes him. Everybody knows, even though everyone looks like Narayan, they don't get confused. In the material world, nobody looks like Narayan, everybody's thinking Narayan. That is the illusion. Spiritual, nobody gets confused. But the Srivatsa marking on Lord Vishnu's chest, they know that is Lord Vishnu. 13. Brajis Subirya Pari To Virajata Jate La Sadvimana Balibir Mahatmanam Vidyotamana Pramado Tamadhyubi Savidyu Abrava Libir Yata Nabam. The Vaikuntha planets are also surrounded by various airplanes, all glowing and brilliantly situated. These airplanes belong to the great Mahatmas or the devotees of the Lord. The ladies are as beautiful as lightning because of their celestial complexions, and all these combined together appear just like the sky decorated with both clouds and lightning. It's interesting, you will not find such descriptions in any other part of scripture or in other traditions. In the Bible, it says, the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of God, there are many palaces. Full stop. One line. That's it. Yes, people are happy and enjoying, but that's it. The detailed descriptions of the Vedas cannot be compared. There is no comparison. It appears that in the Vaikuntha planets, there are also airplanes, brilliantly glowing, and they are occupied by the great devotees of the Lord with ladies of celestial beauty as brilliant as lightning. As there are airplanes, so there must be different types of carriages like airplanes, but they may not be driven machines as we have experienced in this world. Because everything is of the same nature of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The airplanes and the carriages are of the same quality of Brahman. Although there is nothing except Brahman, one should not mistakenly think that there is only void and no variegatedness. Thinking like that is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Otherwise, no one would have such a misconception of voidness in Brahman. As there are airplanes, ladies and gentlemen, so there must be cities and houses and everything else just suitable to the particular planets. One should not carry the ideas of imperfection from this world to the transcendental world and not take into consideration the nature of the atmosphere, which is completely free from the influence of time, etc., as described previously. So we should not superimpose our experience of this world in the material world, in the spiritual world. We should not superimpose our experience of material qualities on the Lord. We should not superimpose our experiences of the material world on the spiritual world. They are totally distinct and unique. So yes, the Vaikuntha Airlines, Vaikuntha planes, the carriages, cities. Vaikuntha is variegated. Even in when Gopakumar his journey is described in Prayer Bhagavatam Rita, he also goes to Vaikuntha, and he also sees the residents of Vaikuntha, like it's described here. So when we hear descriptions of devotees, like Dhruva Maharaj, the spiritual aeroplane coming to pick up Dhruva Maharaj, this is not fictitious. This is real description, because they exist. And they are not flying with mechanical parts, jet fuel, and whatever else is required in the material world. They are spiritual aeroplanes. 14. Shri Yatra Rupinya Rupinyurugyagaya Pada Yo Karoti Manam Bahuda Vibhutibi Prenkam Shritaya Kusuma Karanugair Vigid Yamanam Priyakarmagayati. The goddess of fortune, in a transcendental form, is engaged in the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet and being moved by black bees, followers of spring. She is not only engaged in variegated pleasures, service to the Lord, along with her constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. So Mother Lakshmi is engaged sometimes serving the lotus feet of the Lord, and at other times singing the Lord's glories. And Lord Brahma is getting a darshan of all these different aspects of Vaikuntha. Krishna is giving him the vision, giving him access to these things. The consort of the Lord is described. She is Swarup Shakti of the Lord, Shri, and very beautiful, Rupini. She worships Manam, his feet, along with her associates, being praised variously by bees. She sings about the activities of the Lord. Text 15. Dadarsha tatra kilas satvatam patim shriya patim yagya patim jagat patim sunanda nanda prabalar anad tibi swapar shadagre parisevitam vibhu. The Lord Brahma saw in the Vaikuntha planets the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of the entire devotee community, the Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of the universe, who is served by the foremost servitors like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala, and Arhana, his intimate associates. If you want to take note of these names, you can put them in your diary. And when you go back to the spiritual world, as you're going through Vaikuntha, you can verify. Is Nandaya, is Sunandaya, is Jaya, Vijaya, Prabala, and you'll see all these personalities exist. Real names. When you speak of a king, it is naturally understood that the king is accompanied by his confidential associates, like his secretary, private secretary, aide-de-camp, ministers, and advisors. So also, when we see the Lord, we see him with his different energies, associates, confidential servitors, etc. The Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, the Lord of all the devotee sects, the Lord of all opulences, the Lord of sacrifices, and the joy of everything, in his entire creation, is not only the Supreme Person, but is also always surrounded by his immediate associates, all engaged in their loving transcendental service to him. 16. Britya prasada bimukham drig ashwati ashva ashavam prasana asharunalochananam nanam. Kirtininam kundalinam chaturbujam Pritam Sukham Vakshasi Lakshitam Shriya. The personality of God at seen leaning favorably towards his loving servitors. His very sight intoxicating and attractive, appeared to be very much satisfied. He had a smiling face decorated with an enchanting reddish hue. He was dressed in yellow robes and wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with 3 lines of the goddess of fortune. In the Padma Puran, Uttarakhand, there's a description of the Yoga Pit, or the particular place where the Lord gives audience to his eternal devotees. In that Yoga Pit, personification of religion, knowledge, opulence, and renunciation are all seated at the lotus feet of the Lord. They're all personalities. The 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva, are present there personally to advise the Lord. The 16 energies headed by Chanda are all present there. Chanda and Kumuda are the first 2 doorkeepers. At the middle doors are the doorkeepers named Bhadra and Subhadra. And at the last door are Jai and Vijay. There are other doorkeepers also named Kumuda, Kubudaksha, Pundrika, Vamana, Sankukarna, Sarve, Netra, Sumukha, etc. The Lord's palace is well decorated and protected by the above mentioned doorkeepers. It's interesting. Vaikunta's got many doors and gatekeepers. So there's Lakshmi and Narayan, Vishnu and Lakshmi being served by the devotees. And the beautiful Lord is described. Satisfied Lord is favorable towards his servitors, and his very sight is intoxicating and attractive. And his smiling face, reddish eyes, yellow garments, earrings, shining crown, 4 hands, and a mark of Shrivatsa. And Lord Brahma is getting darshan and view of this. Side note, in the purport, there is mention of the 16 energies. Lord Jagannath's chariot is built with 16 wheels. 16 wheels corresponding to the 16 energies. Now we know that the Lord has unlimited energies, and they can be categorized in 3, Satchit Ananda, or Sandini, Ladini, and Samvit. They can be broken down into different numbers. We're going to see different verses covering that as well. Here in this verse, 16 energies are described. So Prabhupada also talks about this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. As the mission of creating material cosmos, the Lord expanded himself as the first Purusha with 16 energies of material nature. The 16 energies are mentioned in Lagu Bhagavatam Rita as follows. Shri, Bhu, Lila, Kanti, Kurti, Tushti, Gi, Pushti, Satya, Janan, Janahana, Jaya, Utkarshini, Vimala, Yogamaya, Pralay, Ishana, Anugrah. These 16 energies are said to be existent in Vaikuntha. Srila Valadev Vidyabhushan has made a commentation on the Lagu Bhagavatam reader, and he says that above energies are also known as Vimala, Utkarshini, Jnana, Kriya, Yoga, Pravi, Satya, Ishana, Anugrah. Together 9 only. And in Tattva Sandarbha Srila Jiva Goswami, they are described as Shriya, Pushtya, Gira, Kantya, Kartya, Tushti, Laya, Urjya, Vidya, Avidya, Maya, Sambid, Samdini, Aladini, Bhakti, Mukti, Vimala, Ayoya, Yoga, Pravi, Ishana, Anugrah, Shriya, etc. All these different energies act in different spheres of the Lord's supremacy. So Krishna has different categories of energies, and all these energies, every aspect of Krishna, every aspect of Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, everything is fully conscious. All of Krishna's paraphernalia, Vaikuntha, like for example, Narayan's paraphernalia, his ornaments, his dress, his weapons, everything, all these energies, they're all personalities and they're all serving Krishna. 17. Adyar Hanishya Sanam Ashtitam Purparam Vritam Chatus Shodasha Pancha Shaktibi Yukta Bhage Swair Itaratra Chad Chadru Dhruve Swa Evadaman Rama Ramamanam Ishwaram. The Lord is seated, the Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies like the 4, the 16, the 5, 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character, but he was the factual Supreme Lord enjoying in his own abode. So, a picture of the different associates and energies of the Lord that are serving the Lord. The 4 principal Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatvat, and ego. The 16, the 5 elements, 10 sense organs and mind. The 5 10 mantras. And then the 6 natural opulences and other insignificant energies like Astasiddhis. They're all energies. So the sense organs, the sense objects, interesting how they're all energies. Prabhupada says, the Lord is naturally endowed with 6 opulences. Specifically, he's the richest, he's the most powerful, he's the most famous, he's the most beautiful, he's the greatest in knowledge, he's the greatest renouncer as well. As for his material, so these 6 opulences that the Lord possesses are also personalities. As for his material creative energies, he's served by 4, namely the principal Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatvat, and ego. He's served by 16, namely the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The 5 perspective sense organs, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The 5 working sense organs, hands, legs, voice, evacuation outlets and genitals, and the mind. He is also served by the 5, which includes the sense objects, namely form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. All these 25 items serve the Lord in the material creation, and all of them are personally present in Vaikuntha to serve the Lord there. So it's interesting how in the material world, when we talk about earth, water, fire, air, ether, we think, they're inanimate material elements, dead matter. But actually they're energies of the Lord, and they are fully conscious spiritual personalities in the spiritual world. And in the material world, they're acting like the inanimate for the pleasure of Krishna, for his desire. The insignificant opulences numbering 8, the Astasiddhis, attained by yogis are temporary overlordship, are also under his control. But he is naturally full with all such powers without any effort, and therefore he is the Supreme Lord. The living being, by severe penance and performance of bodily exercises, can temporarily attain some wonderful powers, but that does not make him the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, by his own potency, is unlimitedly more powerful than any yogi. He is unlimitedly more learned than any jnani. He is unlimited richer than any wealthy person. He is unlimitedly more beautiful than any beautiful living being, and is unlimitedly more charitable than any philanthropist. He is above all, and no one is equal to or greater than him. Nor can anyone reach his level of perfection in any of the above powers by any amount of penance or yogic demonstrations. The yogis are dependent on his mercy. Out of his immensely charitable disposition, he can award some temporary powers to the yogis because of the yogis hankering after them. But to his unalloyed devotees who do not want anything from the Lord save and accept transcendental service, the Lord is so pleased that he gives himself in exchange for unalloyed service. So this is why the devotee is the greatest. And Prabhupada says a devotee is even greater than God. He doesn't want to become greater than God. He doesn't want to become God, but he just wants to become a servant of God. But because of his unmotivated desire, unalloyed desire to simply serve, Krishna becomes purchased and Krishna gives himself. And when Krishna gives himself, he doesn't fall into Maya. Oh, just see now Krishna is mine. Now I can order Krishna to do this, that. Now I can become the master. No, he doesn't fall prey to that. He eternally stays a servant and a menial, humble servant of the Lord. Right. So we find Prabhupada also quoted some of Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary describing the four Shaktis. So the part, and then Prabhupada in the previous verse quoted the different gates that are different sides or different gates that are protected by the different bodyguards like Jai and Vijay. Yep, so this is basically similar points. So the point I want to, here we see Prabhupada is taking the different commentaries of the acharyas, and then in his purports, he's embellishing it with his different realizations and for our own practical application. And in the last statement here, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is saying the Lord was also endowed with his natural powers, his temporary powers, which I also thought was interesting, of Brahma and others. He saw the Lord who enjoys in Vaikuntha with his own form. So Brahma is seeing he's seeing the spiritual world, he's seeing the Lord, he's seeing the devotees, he's seeing all the energies that exist in the spiritual world, he's seeing all the energies that exist in the material world, even those energies that may be there temporarily for different purposes, different functions, different empowerments. All those energies, they all belong to Krishna. Krishna is the Shaktiman, possessor of energies, and Radhavani is the embodiment of all the energies. So every aspect or all the different energies that we experience in this material creation, and that we do not even know that exists, because there are energies that are acting on us that we really don't even know exists. For example, this planet is spinning very fast. Yet, even though it's spinning, we don't feel like we're spinning. And if the planet had to all of a sudden stop, you'll see everything spinning at that speed. So how is it that the planet's spinning and yet I'm not moving? It's one of Krishna's potencies. So like that, all these potencies that are there, they exist as servants of Krishna, and Lord Brahma is witnessing all these aspects. 18. Tadarshana labha pariplutantaro priyasat tanu prema barashush lochanam nanama padam bhujam asya vishvagshrig yat parama hamsyena patag digam yate. Lord Brahma, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and thus in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love, he thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection for living beings, Paramhamsas. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that this great literature is meant for the Paramhamsas. Paramo Nirmat Sharanam Satam 112. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for the persons completely free from malice, from envy. In the conditioned life of malicious life, beginning from the top, namely bearing malice against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In conditioned life, the malice life begins from the top, namely bearing malice against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We say that we are in the material world because we envy Krishna. If we have a material body, it's mean because we're envious. And that envy started with envy of Krishna. And that is why the spiritual world, it's all about service, because when you serve, you become free from envy. The personality of Godhead is an established fact in all the revealed scriptures, and in the Bhagavad Gita, the personal feature of the Lord is especially mentioned, so much so that the last portion of that great literature is emphatically stressed that one should surrender unto the personality of Godhead to be saved from the miseries of life. Unfortunately, persons with impious backgrounds do not believe the personality of Godhead, and everyone wants to become God without any qualification. This malicious nature in the conditioned soul continues even up to the stage when a person wants to be one with the Lord. And thus, even the greatest empirical philosophers speculating on becoming one with the Supreme Lord cannot become a Paramahamsa because of malicious mind is there. So even those who are impersonally liberated, unfortunately, that tendency of envy is still there. Therefore, the Paramahamsa stage of life can be attained only by those who are fixed in the practice of Bhakti Yoga. This Bhakti Yoga begins if a person has the firm conviction that simply discharging devotional service to the Lord in full transcendental love can elevate him to the highest perfectional stage of life. Brahmaji believed in this art of Bhakti Yoga. He believed in the instructions of the Lord to execute tapa, and he discharged the function with great penance and thus achieved the great success of seeing the Vaikuntha Lokas and the Lord also by personal experience. No one can reach the abode of the Supreme Lord by any mechanical means of the mind or machine, but one can reach the abode of Vaikuntha Lokas simply by following the process of Bhakti Yoga, because the Lord can be realized only through Bhakti Yoga process. Lord Brahmaji also actually sitting on the lotus feet, and from there, by executing the process of Bhakti Yoga in great seriousness, he could see the Vaikuntha Lokas with all variegatedness, as well as the Lord in person and his associates. So, great seriousness in practicing Bhakti Yoga. Following the footsteps of Lord Brahma, any person, even up to this day, can attain the same perfection by following the path of the Paramhamsas as recommended herein. Lord Chaitanya has approved of this method of self-realization for men in this age. One should first, with all conviction, believe in the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Point number 1. Are we convinced Krishna is God? Srila Prabhupada would ask his sannyas disciples, are you convinced Krishna is God? Because if that conviction is not there, forget the rest. The rest of the process is not going to be effective. So, once we're convinced of Krishna as God, if we're not convinced, if we still have doubts, we need to clarify those doubts. Once we're convinced, then, and without making efforts to realize him by speculative philosophy, one should prefer to hear about him from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and later from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. So one should first, with all conviction, believe in the supreme, in the personality of God, Shri Krishna, and without making efforts to realize him by speculative philosophy, one should prefer to hear about him from Srimad Bhagavad Gita and later from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. So convince about him and then hearing from him, Bhagavad Gita, and about him, Bhagavatam. So hearing is very, very important. Therefore, Prabhupada gave us Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. One should hear such discourses from a person, Bhagavata, like Prabhupada, and not from a professional man or from a karmi jnani yogi. That is the secret of learning the science. One does not need to be in the renounced order of life. He can remain in his present condition of life, but he must search out the association of a bona fide devotee of the Lord and hear from him the transcendent message of the Lord with faith and conviction. That is the path of the Paramahamsas recommended herein. Amongst various holy names of the Lord, he is also called Ajita, or one who can never be conquered by anyone else. So having firm faith in the Supreme Lord, hearing, having faith and conviction in hearing about the glories of the Supreme Personality of God. Yet, he can be conquered by the Paramahamsa path, as practically realized and shown by the great spiritual master Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has personally recommended thus Paramahamsa Pantha in his own words as follows. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti san mukharitam bhavadyavartam stane stithane shutigatam tanuvana manobir ye prayasho jita jito yasi tasya trilokyam. Lord Brahma said, O my Lord Krishna, a devotee who abandons the path of empiric philosophical speculation aimed at merging in the existence of the Supreme engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu or saint, and who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of his social life can conquer your sympathy and mercy, even though you are Ajita or unconquerable. That is the path of the Paramahamsas, which are personally followed by Lord Brahma and later recommended by him for the attainment of perfect success in life. So those who engage in honest occupational engagement of social life, part of being in this material world, you have social responsibilities. And that is like a part-time business, part-time duty. Our full-time duty is hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of God and engaging in his service. And that brings us to the end of these wonderful verses where the Lord is personally revealing to Lord Brahma the spiritual world. It's described in Brahma Samhita that when Lord Brahma perfected his life or pleased the Supreme Lord, perfected his the process of Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna personally came and shook his hands and then revealed the spiritual worlds. Just like here, the Lord is revealing the Vaikuntha planets in different, we know that there are different universes. Each one has a Brahma, and there may be different categories of Brahmas. Here, the Lord Brahma is getting the view, experience of Vaikuntha. In some places, some cases, he gets even higher, Goloka Vrindavan. So in this way, he got the mercy of the Lord, saw the spiritual world, glorified the Lord, offered obeisance to the Lord, and then we're going to now hear the next interaction from 1925. Being pleased, the Lord invites Brahma to ask for benedictions. So now Lord Brahma is going to offer prayers and ask for benedictions, and we'll cover that next week. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments? Please type that in the chat. Anju says, Prabhuji, could you throw some light on on transcending the mode of goodness? Does this mean we should stop helping others, or whatever we do good, we should offer it to Krishna? So we don't stop the mode of goodness. Now there's a distinction. We have to understand the different modes. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna covers that extensively. The qualities of the mode of ignorance, the qualities of the mode of passion, the qualities of the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, we get two results: peace and happiness. So it's not about giving up the mode of goodness. It's about not becoming attached to the results of goodness. We want to be in the mode of goodness, and we want to act in a mode of goodness. And acting in the mode of goodness doesn't necessarily mean being good and doing good. Acting in the mode of goodness means being in the mode of sattva, and sattva has certain characteristics which Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. For example, foodstuffs. Foodstuffs can be mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, in mode of goodness. So somebody who is in a mode of goodness will embrace foodstuffs in a mode of goodness. Somebody in a mode of goodness will embrace scripture in a mode of goodness. Somebody in a mode of goodness will embrace the environment in a mode of goodness. So embracing or coming to the mode of goodness means I try to live on the platform of goodness in relation to everything around me. My decisions are based on foundationally on that platform. Now, transcending that means that I could, for example, having a vegetarian diet, accepting fruits and vegetables in the mode of goodness. But it is not Krishna conscious. It's not transcendental. It's not transcending goodness. Those who are vegetarians, they're in a mode of goodness. In terms of, let's say, the selection of food stuff. They may be in ignorance and passion in other aspects. Just focusing on this aspect of food stuff that I choose. So if I choose grains, fruits, milk, vegetables, I'm in a mode of goodness. Now, when I bring that in Krishna consciousness, I only accept those ingredients by offering it to the Supreme Lord and then honor it. Now I'm transcending goodness and coming to the mode of pure goodness. So mode of goodness is, for example, I don't speak lies. Yudhishthira Maharaj, in relation to not speaking lies, was the emblem of not speaking lies. But Krishna told him to speak a lie. And he didn't want to speak a lie. But Krishna wanted him. So he did not want to follow the Lord because he was attached to being called a person who never lies. So he was attached to being in a mode of goodness in relation to that quality. But Krishna wanted to use him as an example to show, don't be attached. If Krishna say, do X, you do X. That's perfection. Same thing with Narad Muni. He wanted to, he went to the forest and he loved the environment of the mode of goodness, and he got attached to that mode. See, so the devotee should not become attached to the mode of goodness, but he should use the mode of goodness to transcend to the higher mode. That's why Prahlad Maharaj was happy, even Dhruva Maharaj, in their prayers, even Prabhupada. If I go to hell, I go to heaven, doesn't matter, as long as I'm serving Krishna. They're not attached to the environment. They transcended the environment. They're transcending the mode of goodness in that sense. So, it's not about giving up activities which are conducive, but it's about transcending activities for the pleasure of Krishna. Sometimes people become attached to the activity minus Krishna. They become attached to the environment minus Krishna. They become attached to the mode minus Krishna. Our focus is to transcend all the modes and accept whatever is favorable for pleasing Krishna, immaterial of the mode also. But if it's pleasing Krishna, we embrace. That is transcendental. That is beyond the modes. Hope that shed some light on that. Right. Shaman Professor Hare Krishna Prabhu. Interesting to know about the spiritual sky and what is there and not there. Very wonderful and detailed description we won't find anywhere else. Yes. Also, Srila Prabhupada helping us test and see where we are on the journey. We still have a lot of work to do. Thanks for sharing. Yes, thank you very much for your feedback. We simply have to keep at it, continue, no stopping. This life, next life, future life, doesn't matter. We just keep at it, and slowly but surely, if we're on track and we are open, serious, sincere to Prabhupada's guidance, we will be guided and we will keep progressing for sure. That kilometer distance will go less and less and less and less, and eventually we will hit the target. So that faith we should have, and with that faith we should continue and never give up. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanand Hari Hari Bol. We will meet again next week. Thank you very much, Ram Kinkar Prabhu. Hare Krishna.